Okay, so I promised to start at on time because those of you who also on Zoom had to get off and then you got on, and that really means a lot. So it is possible. Oh yes, I have some. That we might have to share the handouts, and if not, then that's fine. Each one of you has. There is less art in this particular study that I have brought to you. So first of all, thank you, and my deepest apologies for not being able to be here last week. I wasn't well, and I certainly did not have the strength to be able to, give you what I'm hoping to sort of give it over to you. So those of you who are coming in, please, we have handouts, and I'm gonna leave them right here, and that would be lovely for those who are not. So first of all, why this subject? So we tried very hard to come up with a topic, or at least not topic I came up, but with a description of the class that wouldn't scare people away. Because if you call it right out the way it is what we're going to explore, I'm not sure there would be that many volunteers who say, I love talking about lying. So let me just say that this isn't a class. There is no confessional. There is no exploratory feeling. What drew me to the topic, to the subject, is really deception, much more complicated than a lie. That's number one. Number two, I looked at the book of Genesis, and understanding that in a developmental tradition, that probably our books, 5 books, existed on their own before they were brought together in one canon, which we call Torah. They existed on the book of Genesis Bereshit was sustained and created. And out of 50 chapters, if I will ask you about the stories of deception, I don't think there are 2 chapters that are free from it. They might skip one in order to give you a little bit of feeling good about our people. But if I will ask you, give me a story of deception in Genesis, what would you call? First of all, today, and he did marvelous, sophisticated analysis. The child is outstanding. But what would you call? You would start from where? Adam and Eve, you start. So right there at the beginning, in this garden, they call it, where everything is perfect, and God is perfect, and she's perfect, and he's perfect, and the trees are perfect, everything. Dafka, you do have something that does not sit exactly correct. Okay, Adam and Eve, 2, that one, number 2. What is it? Cain and Abel. Very good, 2, next. The story of deceit in the story of deceit in the Torah in Genesis. Okay, we've got as far as the first 3 chapters, 4 maybe. Okay, what else? I mean, this week. I mean, it's if you're into it, boy, that's your week. This is like yes.
Did somebody say Akedah? Because in a way, God deceived.
Absolutely, I didn't even think about that.
Never mind the humans, God.
Very good. That is very good. Okay. What else do we have? Is it a deceit?
Abraham didn't want it.
But where's deceit in that? Was it clear that she's taken out? Okay. Okay. I mean, with this, all right.
Wait a minute. Abraham tells his wife to lie about who she is.
Very good. And what about his son? Yes. What about his Isaac? Also exact. So, if I'm given Joseph's story narrative, 13 chapters, the only one who says straight things is the Pharaoh. Is the straight shooter. Nobody else, the cupbearer, find me an innocent person who is just upset. So what I want to say is that looking up at the material and saying, unless there's only so much white paint I have in a store on Benjamin's Moor to whitewash and white paint the whole thing. You just don't make that much anymore. So, of course, I'm not the only one who would be looking at this material with that thorough eyes, and sometimes this analysis is not terribly supportive of us as people, because somebody answers the question to a rabbi, Orthodox rabbi, and he happened to be a Jew, who says, Rabbi, I was looking through the internet and I found this minister so-and-so. And this minister said that Jewish people don't tell true stories. And they don't tell, they'll just read through Genesis. He says, how should I read our holy Torah when nobody's telling the straight story? What kind of examples are there? So right now, Ajahn did a wonderful job to say how much it costs, the deceit costs and so forth. Yes, but I'm looking at it globally, and therefore it brought me to a place of trying to understand why is not only is it in a place of our storytelling, by the way, to make us feel a little bit better, cross-culturally, fairy tale mythology has trickster left and right. As my dear teacher, Dr. Sperling, said, that our God looks like a mensch compared to a Greek mythology. I love that. He taught Bible. He says, Adonai is a mensch compared to the gods of Pantheon, of what they do and their ethics. Okay, this is not what this is about. So I began to think of that if our humanity responds to what is actually, we're part of the larger set of creation, let's take a look at what deception serves in the larger picture, to take it away for a moment and see us human beings as a part of the creative force in the universe. So let me just share with you the first from Lixin's son, The Liars of Nature and the Nature of Liars. How would you like that? Cheating and deception in the living world. How would you like that for a book on your nightstand, right? So, and there, by the way, you can tell I combed through it, my yellow note, but it is a pretty extraordinary analysis. So this is what Lixin's son writes. She's pregnant, raising a child, your page 1, first reading. A lot of time and energy, yet she's short of both. Homeless, she has no choice but to find somebody else to take care of her baby for free. It's not easy, but she knows how to pull it off. She scouts around and spots a cozy home in a quiet neighborhood. The young wife of the family looks caring and has just given birth to a new baby. So it is a perfect choice as a surrogate. She hides herself and waits in the vicinity, keeping watch on the house. Opportunity presents itself when the new mother takes a short trip to get some food. She sneaks and then switches the baby with her own. Then she heartlessly throws the infant into a dump. What you have just read is a cold-blooded murder case. One that takes place in nature when a female cuckoo bird, nice word, nice name, cuckoo bird, sneaks her egg into a warbler's nest. The cuckoo is cheating, so the scenario doesn't quite fit Oxford English Dictionary definition of the verb cheat, to act dishonestly or unfairly in order to gain an advantage. Cheating in humans usually involves an element of intention. In the larger biological world, however, establishing intent is neither easy nor necessary. For biologists, as long as organisms act to favor themselves at the expense of others, especially in situations when cooperation is expected, they are cheating. Did everyone knew that about the bird? It is well known. And everyone's okay with that? Look at this. We're all so comfortable, okay? It's in nature, right? We say, this is before the Torah has been given to them. What do they know? They're just animals, right? But what you see is planning. You see strategy and ability to bring something to life that wouldn't have before, unless you can rely on deceit. Thank you, my dear. if you can help us, I appreciate it. Okay, let's see if it gets any better with as we progress. David Livingston Smith, Why We Lie. This is another read for you, just in case you might be interested. Why and so. Okay, would someone volunteer and help me to read this, and I will give you this mic that works. Mel, Doug, anyone would like to volunteer to? Thank you. Yes.
Mel dug furiously with her bare hands to extract the large, succulent corm from the rock-hard Ethiopian ground. It was the dry season, and food was scarce. Corms are edible bulbs, rather like onions, and are a staple during these long, hard months. Little Paul sat nearby and surreptitiously observed Mel's labors out of the corner of his eye. Paul's mother was out of sight. She had left him to play in the long grass, but he was secure in the knowledge that she would remain within earshot in case he needed her. Anyway, at this moment, he was concerned with Mel rather than with the precise whereabouts of his mother. Just as Mel managed, with a final heave, to yank her prize out of the earth, Paul's ear-splitting cry shattered the peace of the savannah. His mother rushed to her boy. Heart pounding and adrenaline pumping, she burst on the scene and quickly sized up the situation. Mel had obviously harassed her darling child. Furiously shrieking abuse, she stormed after the bewildered Mel, who dropped the corm and fled. Now Paul's scheme was complete. After a furtive glance to make sure nobody was looking, he picked up his prize and began to eat. The trick worked so well that he used it several more times before anyone wised up. Kids will be kids, even when they are apes.
So what am I doing? Is I'm slowly moving up the ladder of creation. I started with the bird. Now this gets even more sophisticated. The fact he repeats, he will mimic he will attempt all kinds of trick in order to get the food as he needs, and plays on his mother's protective emotion, right? And you wonder, right, like at what point do you actually learn that? So I went to rabbis and I said, okay, so is it if it's comfortable in nature and the Torah is filled with it, is there any midrash or commentary that actually deals with this very complicated subject for which we don't want to talk about, but frankly, without it, no literature would exist, and there would be no atonement for Yom Kippur and no breaking the fast. So, creation of a human being. So I found for you a wonderful, wonderful midrash about creation, and this is what rabbinic mind brings to us. So what you will see in this midrash is the fact that there will be 4 entities that are arguing whether the human being should be created or not. So when God says, let us create a human being, right? It is in plural. There obviously, Rabbi said, there was more than one. Who else was there? Must have been what they call ministering angels. So there was another celestial being that were helping God. Well, let's see who are they, and let's take a look at what actually happens in that moment. It's reading number 3. Anyone volunteers to help me? To help us? Please. Sarah, thank you.
Rabbi Simon said, at the time when the Holy Blessed One came to create the first man, the ministering angels formed themselves into groups, some saying, man should not be created, and some saying, man should be created. As it says, kindness and truth met, justice and peace kissed. Kindness said, man should be created because he does acts of kindness, and truth said, man should not be created because he is all lies. Justice said, man should be created because he does just acts. And peace said, man should not be created because he is all quarrels.
Okay, let me just stop you just for a second. So what we have is a tie. Is everyone with me? There are 4, and you've got 2 and 2. 2 say human beings should be created, and 2 says human beings should not be created. And among them, who is talking? Kindness, truth, justice, and peace. This is who is in the conversation. So let's see what the Holy One will do. Please, Sarah.
What did the Holy Blessed One do? God took truth and threw him to the ground, as it says, and truth was thrown to the ground. The ministering angels said before the Blessed Holy One, Master of the universe, why are you disgracing the chief of your court ceremonies? Bring truth back from the ground, as it says, truth will grow from the ground.
Okay, so they have a pasuk, they've got to bring a verse that will say, don't worry, the truth will come up through the ground. Out of all the four entities to break if you want to create human being, obviously this is God's idea, and this midrash comes to be after after human beings are created. What gets exiled to break the tie? The truth. You could have thrown maybe something. Who says should be created, right? Justice. No, what gets thrown is the truth goes out, right? Which is fascinating. They could have, there are plenty of psukim, they could have found their thesis, but it is the truth, right, that gets exiled. So let's take a look, and this is a reading from David Livingston Smith, Why We Lie. So there will be about 4 books that I will sort of present to you, scholars who spend psychological work on monitoring and studying what happens to our brain when we do not tell the truth or somewhat true. I'm sorry, I'm going to call it, we're looking at the Torah text. What happens to our family? What happens to relationships, right? And the topic is actually a lot more muted than all or nothing. And you probably being adults and mature people know that. Okay, so let's take a look. What brings on this business of truth and its complexity? There is a strong relationship between the size of a primate group and the amount of time that its members spend grooming one another. The bigger the group, the more grooming time. So now we're back to Mel, right? Mel and the apes, okay? So how do you show affection? And have you ever watched apes in ground, either apes or chimpanzees? What they do, the way they show affection and political alliances is actually through grooming. And if you look at documentaries, the one who is ostracized is the chimp that you're not interested in either grooming or you don't want him to groom you, right? It's not sensual or sexual necessary at all. It is about communal relationship. Touch makes all the difference in the world. That builds trust, that builds companionship. Okay. So the bigger the group, the more grooming time. The social math is simple. The larger the group, the more networking required for social success. As we have seen, the complexity of a group increases exponentially with each additional member. This puts a cap on the maximum size of groups that rely on grooming to maintain social coherence. Beyond a certain point, too much time would have to be spent on grooming, and there would not be enough hours left in the day for vital activities, such as finding food. Language ushered in a new phase in the timeless struggle between the forces of deception and detection. Okay, should I read it again? Language ushered in a new phase. Loading the dice heavily in favor of the former, it enabled human beings to misinterpret reality much more effectively than had previously been possible. The sword of language cuts 2 ways. It is both enlightening and bewitching, an instrument for understanding and a snare for the unwary. The gift of gab allowed our ancestors to paint false portraits of the world, including their own motives, at absurd little cost. Our social life is not solely based on one-to-one interpretations. It also involves relationship with coalitions of individuals. When we add up all the possible ways the pie can be cut, we end up with a truly staggering number of combinations. In a group of only 20 individuals, there are 1,048, relationship permutations. Can anyone make sense? What is David saying? Okay. What he's saying is that once you part from tactile, I'm here for you, you're here for me, and you begin to look at the size of the group, when your family grows, your complexities will grow. How you navigate politically your landscape is going to become more and more complicated. And therefore, truth will be challenged because you have to create political alliance. You have to know what to say when. You have to align yourself with people that will help you. You're also, the place of a gossip is the way to understand who you should marry, who you should not marry, who has a good reputation, who took what from whom. That begins to grow and multiply. Once we leave our little tribal relationships, we are moving into the world of political negotiations and social complexities. And being what they call politically correct, already, to a degree, reforming of truth, you think you want to say. You're actually very careful of what you're actually going to say and how you are going to present what you're going to say. So the beginning of, one of the scholars says, well, you know, as soon as language comes into place, it's already one step removed from what you really feel. It's been already filtered through your animal impulses. It actually you have to be refined. Once you refine it, you begin to complicate the words you want to say. So it is language is responsible for what we do not say straight to one another. So let's take a look at the creation in the Garden of Eden. Please.
Does the sound of the person talking, how they're talking?
Ah, very good. Please, Maya, please. Yeah, say it. Yes, yeah.
That's the sound. Is that?
Yes.
That's the sound and the expression of the voice and the expression of the face not tell a lot.
Very good, yes.
And then, you know, you walk into a room where you don't know too many people and everybody turns their head either to you or away from you.
Very well, absolutely. When I was looking at these selections, one of my friends said, well, you know, if you actually a person who tells the truth all the time, see if they'll invite you back for dinner. How is the soup? Horrible. My grandmother's recipe, much better. Well, we call it impolite, but I'm obviously being flippant, right, about that. But the fact is that in order to get along, as we progress, you do censor, okay? So this is a gentle approach to an issue. So let's take a look upon creation of, what do we need? We need a hand. Oh, Lori, I'm so sorry, Mal. I just did not look to my left. Please. Please. Love your outfit.
No, oh, thank you. I'm probably jumping ahead, and this isn't in Torah times, but if you then add on money, power, and technology, yeah, your 1,000 and whatever permutations, it just went through.
Very good. So, no, it's very good. You're absolutely right. I mean, you have to check you have to check your sources, no doubt. One of the things, and I'm not linear, but what my dear teachers have taught me, is that to steal, and they do experiments and they quantify it. I mean, this is serious scholars. If you put a purse, and it's much less, it's much more effort to take someone's wallet. But it's much more encouraging to cheat someone online of money. So the more you removed from the personal, and the money is like, what does that mean when you look at the spreadsheet of what you think you have? I mean, you can't count it, right? To remove zeros one way or another and to move decimal is very much easier than actually go into someone's purse. So if you don't know the person, it's even easier. Okay, so I'm gonna pause here. Let's take a look what's happening to our dear Adam and Eve. And God, Adonai, commanded to a human being, right, saying, of every tree of the garden, I'm on page 3, you are free to eat. But as for the tree of knowledge of good and bad, you must not eat of it. For as soon as you eat of it, you shall die. And actually, it's you surely will die. Mot tamut, you certainly will die, okay? So there is a definite for Eve, prohibition of what where you're not supposed to eat, okay? That's pretty clear. Actually, there's supposedly 2 trees. There's much less interest in a tree that give you everlasting life, like a tree of life. What seems to be a lot more interesting is to be a little bit more like gods of knowing good and bad. Fascinating what matters to people. Longevity is actually secondary to a quality life and living. Okay, so would someone volunteer and help me read the first paragraph of Genesis 3, verse, we didn't number verses in, but it looks like, you know, the first paragraph. Now that the Nahash serpent was, yes, please, my dear. Thank you.
Now the serpent was the shrewdest of all the wild beasts that God had made. It said to the woman, "Did God really say you shall not eat of any tree in the garden?" The woman replied to the serpent, "We may eat of the fruit of the other trees of the garden. It is only about the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden that God said, you shall not eat of it or touch it, lest you die."
Nice, okay. So, what, yes, Yehuda?
God lied.
God lied, or,
No, because they didn't die.
okay, or in addition to that, what is the, which is excellent comment, Yehuda, what is in Eve's words, is there anything additional or none that might surprise you? Please. Yeah. Touch it, very good. Did God say don't touch it? She says, shouldn't even touch it. God didn't say don't touch it. Ah, oh, sweet Eve, this is an opening. Once you have exaggeration, fertile ground for more. She is stepping aside from actual message, and it's just happened that the beautiful being in a garden who at this point has legs. And Freud always used to say, there is always 3. It's she, he, and his mother. There's always 3. It's she, he, and his work. It's she, he, and the child. You never quite free, right? So here we've got, it's he, she, and there is a sword. Where do we refer, and this is a side comment, is that it's shrewdest of them all, right? First of all, it has a language of speech. It's actually communicating with, which is already dangerous, number 1. Number 2, when God curses the serpent, the snake, he says, you're gonna be spending time on your belly. And everyone will have, well, if you're gonna be spending time on your belly going forward, what were you spending your time on now? If this is a curse, you have to take something away in order to make it bad, correct? So he was walking, somehow he got around, right? So most of paintings have him, you know, wrapped around the coil, around why would that be? Oh, now you're gonna continue slide across the ground. No, now you will not have legs. It's not expressed this way, but this is what it means. All right, so first of all, she brings in an opening by exaggeration. She's afraid of it, right? We're not gonna put her on the couch and figure out why she's so afraid. She's terribly curious. She wants to know, but she will step away and say, I can't even touch it. I want it so much, so I won't even touch it, okay? We're gonna come back to this. I brought this for a reason and so forth. So let's go to the next page and let's take a look at selection number 6, and this is from Dan Ariely. He's one of my very favorite psychologists, behavioral psychologists, and his book is The Honest Truth About Dishonesty, with a new chapter from the author Dan Ariely. Honest Truth About, like the name alone of a book will make you buy a book. He is incredibly charming Israeli scientist, lives, I think, taught for MIT, now he has a chair elsewhere and so forth. He studies his own history, and you can get him on TED Talk and YouTube. He's very well known and so forth. As a child, he lived in an apartment or home not too far away from a chemical plant that explodes, and he's terribly burned. He survives, and he describes that he learned the value of lie and kindness from nurses. He said, I could detect they were gonna lie, how much it was gonna hurt when they take the bandages off. So when you see him, you can see that he was, obviously very affected because there is some scarring and so forth. Charming beyond all you can. What a scholar, what a storyteller. So his studies where this kind of this funny area of truth and somewhat less of it takes place in the human mind and so forth. So let's, would someone volunteer, come forward and so forth, stay, read, and I just hope our people on Zoom, I did ask for you to have these handouts, but I just want to make sure that they can hear as well. Would someone volunteer? It's a hefty paragraph. Please, Esther, thank you. Yeah, so we want to make sure they can hear there as well. Thank you. Yeah.
Finally, the fact that many people cheat just a little when given the opportunity to do so suggests that the forces that govern dishonesty are much more complex and more interesting than predicted by the SMORC simple model of rational crime test. What's going on here? I'd like to propose a theory that we will spend much of this book examining. In a nutshell, the central thesis is that our behavior is driven by two opposing motivations. On one hand, we want to view ourselves as honest, honorable people. We want to be able to look at ourselves in the mirror and feel good about ourselves. Psychologists call this ego motivation. On the other hand, we want to benefit from cheating and get as much money as possible. This is the standard financial motivation. Clearly, these two motivations are in conflict. How can we secure the benefits of cheating and at the same time still view ourselves as honest, wonderful people? This is where our amazing cognitive flexibility comes into play. Thanks to this human skill, as long as we cheat by only a little bit, we can benefit from cheating and still view ourselves as marvelous human beings. This balancing act is the process of rationalization, and it is the basis of what we'll call the fudge factor theory.
Right, the fudge factor. Okay, so let me just, he does not, I didn't see it in this book, maybe, but I didn't see it. But he has a marvelous example of where and they do studies, so they take vending machine. Actually, I would love to participate in the study of setting it up. Like, you have to think this up, right? So they take a vending machine somewhere in a public place, and they say, if it malfunctions, please call the number. Okay. If I'm going to ask you, how many of you ever put the money into the machine, and machine did not give you anything? Am I the only one? And so forth. So people come, they put money into the machine does not give them their Snickers or a potato chip bar, right? How many times do you think what follows? The next time when they come up to get something from the machine, not only does the machine gives you your money back, it also gives you whatever it is you want. So you get potato chips, and you got your $1.50 back. Phone number says machine is malfunctioning. If so, this is the phone number you can call to report malfunction. How many times on average do you think go back to the machine to get another chocolate bar? They put this test all over, experiment, all over the place. Not one nation is more honest than another. I just wanted to, he relaxes you right there. About 4 times that you will go back on average to the machine, get your money and your treat. So then when the questionnaire is asked, right, nobody needs to be embarrassed. What makes people do that? Common answer is 3 years ago. I was in Los Angeles, in a parking lot. There was a vending machine. I went, and guess what? Twice. It ate my money and gave me garnished. Nothing came. Okay? So you settled the dispute with this vending machine based on other vending machine incident. You've settled, you finally had a chance for justice, okay? So, what I wanted to do is, instead of going from Eve to ta-da-da, we can do a multi-session class in this. I wanted to go to the beginning of, actually to the end, and then trace ourselves to the beginning, if there is such thing as an end, because the story doesn't end so. However, let's take a look at our mother Rachel. Rachel Imenu, they call it. Someone asked me, how come in our prayers? It was a fascinating question. And we say, Elohe Abraham, Elohe Yitzhak, Elohe, and we mentioned Rachel before we mentioned Leah, when actually Leah is the oldest, and Leah gives people of Israel six tribes plus 2 from her, from her concubine, and others, right, from her maid. So how come? So anyway, we will settle it today, just in case you are uncertain and it bothers you. I will promise we will be clear before the class is over. So please take a deep breath. I need your help to read. It's a lengthy paragraph. It is on page 5, and it's a translation to Genesis 31:17. Some of you know the story. Sometimes we do not talk about the story enough. It's somewhat complicated, but very worthy read. Would someone volunteer? Please, would you like to read, Myra? Fantastic. So I need you into the microphone and loud, please.
Okay. Is that right?
Yes. Very good.
Okay. Therefore, Jacob put his children and wives on camels, and he drove off all his livestock and all the wealth that he had amassed. The livestock in his possession that he had acquired in Padan Aram, to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan.
Very good. So let me just stop for a second. What's happening is Jacob spent 20 years. He gets 2 wives. He's got 12 children. He's got 2 extra wives who are the servant, and they're going back, right? He decides, I'm leaving Laban's house. I'm going back. Thank you. Please continue.
Meanwhile, Laban has gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole her father's household idols. Jacob kept Laban, the Aramean,
Aramean.
in the heading toward the hill country of Gilead. On the 3rd day, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. So he took his kinsman with him and pursued him a distance of 7 days, catching up with him in the hill country of Gilead. But God appeared to Laban, the Aramean, in a, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Aramean? Aramean, okay. God appeared to Laban in a dream by night and said to him, beware of attempting anything with Jacob, good or bad. Laban overtook Jacob. Jacob had pitched his tent on the height, and Laban with his kinsmen encamped in the hill country of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, what do you mean by keeping me in the dark and carrying off my daughters like captives of the sword? Why did you flee in secrecy and mislead me and not tell me? I would have sent you off with festive music, with timbrel and lyre. You did not even let me kiss my sons and daughters goodbye. It was a foolish thing to do. I have it in my power to do you harm. But the God of your father's house said to me last night, beware of attempting anything with Jacob, good or bad. Very well, you had to leave because you were longing for your father's house. But why did you steal my gods? Jacob answers Laban, saying, I was afraid because I thought you would take my daughters from me by force. But anyone with whom you find your gods shall not remain alive. In the presence of our kin, point out what I have of yours and take it. Jacob, of course, did not know that Rachel had stolen them. So Laban went into Jacob's tent and Leah's tent and the tents of the two maidservants, but he did not find them. Leaving Leah's tent, he entered Rachel's tent. Rachel, meanwhile, had taken the idols and placed them in the camel cushion and sat on them. And Laban rummaged through the tent without finding them. For she said to her father, let not my lord take it amiss that I cannot rise before you, for I am in a womanly way. Thus he searched, but he could not find the household idols.
Woo, thank you, Maya. This is a hard one. Thank you. For how many of you it's a surprise story? Right? It's not a well-told story, often told story. What's happening in the story? Is anyone else surprised that our Rachel Amenu? Yes, please, Leon, please.
She's not only deceiving,
Okay, I'm going to give you the question because it's one. Yeah. Yes.
I mean, she's deceiving everybody. She's deceiving Laban. She's deceiving her father.
Equal opportunity deception.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it's not only you. I am going cross-board.
Yeah.
So what is also, look at this literary mastery. Jacob deceives his father. Rachel deceives her father. What's happening with monotheism? Who's deceiving God? Little household idols which you put in your cushion on which you sit? I mean, does anyone have a problem with this story? Why am I the only one who can't sleep at night? Now you shouldn't sleep either.
So
Yes.
it's sort of a red herring, but does this tell us that
The practice of Judaism was slightly different in those days. Like, isn't Rachel and Menu like already part of the covenant?
Well, this is what we're thinking.
So it has so many layers because she steals gods that are anathema to art.
Absolutely, yes. Larry, you have something to say? It looks like it.
Better she should have stolen the silverware.
There are a couple of things that's striking about this. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of literature on this as well. First of all, Lavan is not a pleasant character. We know that. And it isn't because rabbis made him unpleasant. It's straight from the text. His deceitfulness towards his daughters and so forth. Forget the future son-in-law. But the fact that God speaks to him, anyway, he has this, conversation with God. That's interesting. And the fact that God says to him, don't try anything. No, shure mure. Don't touch him, and so forth about Jacob. And then and she's insistent on holding on to her idol. So, my dear teacher, this is not a small thing. She looks at the story as a very powerful story for Rachel. In her book, Agi, where are you, my love? Is Agi here? Oh, my love, sorry. Yes, Agi, this is the woman we're going to bring. We need a committee, so please. Wendy Zeeler, she's from Toronto, scholar, was one of my teachers in Hebrew Union College in Hebrew literature. And Rachel stole the idols, and that is the emergence of modern Hebrew women writings. Women wrote literature in Hebrew already in 1800s, early 1800s, having very hard time publishing it, and they try anyway. Why is it so significant? Is that the early 1800s, hardly anyone wrote in modern Hebrew. Modern Hebrew didn't exist. They wrote in an ancient tongue, some letters, some religious writings, but not literature. There is a group of people who want to write and who want to bring Hebrew to the level of languages of others where literatures are composed, English and Russian and German and French, where you can express ideas. Language need to be developed, and you have to write in it in order for language to catch up and to develop. So there are periodicals, and there is a literary magazines, and of course, being a woman who is the writer is not easy whatsoever. Rachel Marpurgo comes into the scene, and she's born in 1800, a woman from a very well-known family of rabbis, doctors, and so forth from Italy. She begins to write in Hebrew, and she marries the family Marpurgo, and she says to her parents, either I marry him or nothing else will matter, but marriage brings forward other very serious complexities. What are the complexities? Are the fact that she has no time to write. She's a mother of 4 children, she has a household, and the writing is very challenged. So let's see what she does with a tradition. Let me just back up for a second in a moment, is that rabbis were not particularly very comfortable with the fact that our great mother Rachel sat on these household gods, sat or took them to begin with, and they tried to deal with it. So they will come up with all kinds of delicious stories, like, you know, she actually sat on them and they turn into dust. Then another one is the fact that, that's my favorite, is that she wanted to help her father to become monotheist, so she stole them. This is great. It's a great story. She stole them from him so he will be less pagan than he actually was. So she wanted to reduce the number of, there were more household gods, but she helped him to get on the way. So obviously they're not in comfort, neither are we, but the story stands. So Rachel Marpurgo writes this poem, and she says the following in the poem. Before I grew old, we're on page 6. Before I grew old, when I wasn't asleep, I habitually lent my voice in song. With Lavan I lived, and therefore was late, telling myself this pain shall end. I deliberated, hid my book, concealed my pen, and said, turn away. I realized, in fact, it was futile to expect, seeing the one who urges disloyalty. Even as I suffered day by day, I earned and hoped for help from the Lord. Okay, the poem takes a bit of time to absorb. What is the key, one of the 2 key lines in the poem? How does she achieve her? Yes, please, Arian, please, welcome. Please, my love, move closer. You have Torah to share with us. Please, my dear friend. Yeah, what is the key line? What do we see?
I think before I grew old, when I wasn't asleep.
Can't hear you.
Very good. Before I grew up, and what does that mean to you? Yeah.
Basically, before,
It's okay, my love, but you have so much to say. Will you, or you want to, yes?
you can come back.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Okay, so there is a lot. I mean, anytime someone puts a poem together, as one of my friend writers said, you know, open your wrist and let it bleed. Do you know what I mean? Like every line is years in developing. But for me, I deliberated, hid my book, concealed my pen, and said, turn away. What is she doing with her writing? She hides her writing because she's not supported as a writer. All day long, she takes care of her family. To take time for her intellectual and soulful pursuit, she has to steal. She hides. When everyone goes to bed, this is her time. Her circumstance does not allow her to claim her literary aspirations. In order to do so, she writes at night, and she writes without showing that she does so. Only when she is published and praised does her husband actually softens to give, and she begins to write more and so forth. But before that, she's actually frustrated and terribly pained by it. So Wendy Zeeler describes, and I love that attitude, is that we see Rachel is stealing idols, but actually the woman is defining her spiritual practice, her spiritual tradition. We might disagree with it. Where's the monotheism? How do you take a God and put it and sit on it? Whatever it is you think, but the fact is she wants it for herself. And it's private, and she is allowed to have it. And she has a whole group that would not let her. Otherwise, wouldn't you be proud of the fact that I'm taking my tradition in a way? I've got my Havdalah set with me. This isn't exactly the way it portrays. So I was blessed when I lived in Indiana to have some really extraordinary friends. They were, women, some much older than me. One lived in the Nelly Perez, in the 1950s and 60s. She lived in Spain. So she describes her life in Spain during Franco, and her husband did very well. And she describes, you've had help in the house, somebody came and made you pastries, and this person made you soup and all that. I was young, I was in the 20s, I was like, what's a great life? Can you imagine someone comes into your house to make you pastry? Like, they didn't know from strudel, they were Spanish, but just the idea that someone will make you pastries in your house. And she says to me, don't romanticize, because after every visit, you had to go into the trash and to make sure that silverware was you should count all your forks and knives. You had poor people who came from the mountains. People wanted extra money. The pastries were good. You look around, and your poverty will promote your desire to have something of your own, right? That this is only, if it's not for me, then maybe for my children to improve their education. So then she says, okay, so around the table at the dinner, we're all discuss, oh, you can't get good help anymore. This was the first, oh, you cannot get good help. She says, but then men would leave to have their cigars in the parlor, and then the women would say, so the conversation was, how much did you steal this week? And I'll tell you how they stole, is that there was an allowance. Women didn't work. There was an allowance. And in order to have money of your own, you will say that you will spend $50, you spend more, $75 on food, but actually you spend only $50. I'm making it up. And therefore, $25 you could keep for yourself. So just in case you need money for whatever it is and so forth, so on, you would have. So what I want to say is that at times lie is economically and socially structured. That you wouldn't do it maybe otherwise, but the circumstances in which you find yourself, you're not exactly, you do not go straight about it, okay? So first of all, so I wanted just to introduce that nuance that of that even writing, remember Virginia Woolf says, room of one's own. You want women to write fiction? Wonderful, get us a room so we would have, not write in the kitchen and in the living room, but actually have a room of one's own where I can actually write. This is a different class. Let's just take a look, and story you know very well, and that is on page 6, we are in reading 10. So Lavan gathered all the people in a place, made a feast. You know the story. We just have read it this or were in the same place this Shabbat. When evening came, he took his daughter Leah, brought her to him, and he cohabitated with her. You know the story, and in the morning, Hine Leah, here's Leah, big surprise, right? You wait for a woman for 7 years, you work for her. The fact that you didn't figure out that this is the one you always wanted just tells us that he was a little anxious. Well, makes sense, right? I mean, considering the time span. But obviously, this story does not answer all the questions. What is the question? Someone help me? What is going on? Okay, so what is this you have done to me, he says. I was in your service for Rachel. Why did you deceive me? Laban said, it's not the practice in our place to marry off the younger before the older. Very good. This is a nice little reference to what you just did with you. Well, not just, 7 years has passed. But what happened between you and your father, and the fact that you took something that belongs to the oldest sister, fine, okay? So how this takes place, I mean, I like it because I would have loved to hear rabbis discussing this. How would that go? He says, well, he didn't know she was Leah, not at all, not the sound of her voice, not the shape. Like, how did it go? So they said, well, you know, Rachel, in order not to upset, not to shame her sister because she will be discovered, teaches her all the little intimate things that the couple knows about one another, so she's not ashamed. The words, the phrases, the touch, like you, she passes on to her. And because, and it gets, the Midrash gets even more, like they get daring, goes, though I have even better Midrash for you, better Torah. She actually climbed under the bed. And when he called Rachel's name, she answered while it was Leah, and Leah was in the bed. Like, I mean, you know, you're gonna come up with this stuff. You know, and I have a good imagination. I'm like imagining my mother, Rachel, like actually, you know, dropping on the floor, climbing onto the bed, making sure that her scarf isn't seen. And there she is all night long. A fascinating, yes, Yehuda.
I think it makes more sense.
Yes.
They spent the night with Rachel all night, and it was Rachel.
Ah,
In the morning,
here's
they
Leah.
woke up, they switched.
Okay, did you hear that? We've got new Torah. Did everyone hear that?
So I said, he actually spent the night with Rachel. And it was only in the morning when he was, you know, fast asleep. And then the two sisters switched. So when he wake up in the morning, then he saw Leah. But he had actually spent the night with Rachel. Because to me, that's the only makes sense. How can you possibly make when you wake up and you're in a sort of a, you know, then it makes sense. Where did you come from, you know?
Very good. I never read it like this. Yehuda, kol hakavod. I like it. It's even more interesting than that. Okay. So what does not? So hold on. Let me get back. The reason for all of us to is the reason we value Mother Rachel Imenu is because of her sacrifice. Because she was asked to sacrifice unimaginable, is to hand over the love of your life you waited for 7 years. And if she was smart, which I think we come from smart people, she knew it's going to bring lots of trouble. It's going to build Israel, yes, we're going to have 12 tribes, and yes, and so forth, so on. But you don't get 2 wives, 2 spouses, and it's all, loving and easy, you know, much more complex. Okay, so let's go back to something. All right, we are on page 7. You good? You good? You with me? We're not exhausted? We have half an hour in us? We're okay? We can go? It gets better, even better. All right, so let's look at Rebecca, right? So Rachel is Rachel's mother-in-law. Let's go back a little bit to Rachel, to the birth and the moment of formation of the family. So would someone volunteer and read? I would like just 2 paragraphs, please. But the children struggled in her womb. Would someone just, you're next, please. Thank you. With loud for everyone. Yeah.
But the children struggled in the womb, and she said, "If so, why do I exist?" She went to inquire of Adonai, and Adonai answered her, "2 nations are in your womb. 2 separate peoples shall issue from your body. 1 people shall be mightier than the other, and the older shall serve the younger." When her time to give birth was at hand, there were twins in her womb. The first one emerged red, like a hairy mantle all over. So they named him Esav. Then his brother emerged, holding on to the heel of Esav. So they called him Yaakov. Yitzhak, was 60 years old when they were born. When the boys grew up, Esav became a skillful hunter, a man of the outdoors. But Yaakov became the mild man, raising livestock. Yitzhak favored Esav because he had the taste for game, but Rivka favored Yaakov.
And Torah, thank you. And the Torah is very honest. It doesn't say, I love you both, but different. I love you this way, I love you that way. Torah has a very wide shoulders. I love you more than I love you. Okay. Not probably defined, it's honest in some ways, but hard to hear. So what is surprising about the text? What's the problem? Yes, Esther.
I don't know if it's in terms of deception, but I've always puzzled with the line, if so, why do I exist?
Right, well, she said, yeah, it's an expression, right? Like what's, if it's so difficult, why would I, do you know what I mean? Like, what is it to me, okay? What, yes,
To me, I always wondered why it didn't tell.
Fantastic, thank you, I was waiting for that. Excellent, guy. Okay, so, we couldn't hear, so thank you. So Howell says an excellent line. He says, one people shall be mightier than the other, and the older should serve the younger. 2 nations are in your womb. I mean, that's a pretty hefty message from God. Do you think your husband should know something about it? Okay, so let's say I'm expecting. I go to see the doctor, and the doctor tells me I'm carrying twins. Do you think that changes your life a little bit than expecting one? I don't know, I'm a mother of one, but I had enough to do with one of what that meant, that you would carry twins, number one. Wouldn't you go to your husband and say, can you imagine? We're having twins, number one. Number two, it's gonna be a little complicated because God said, like in your family also wasn't so straight. Nothing. So you have a certain omission. If she said it, and our rabbi in our tradition decided not to record it, that's one thing. But we don't know that. By all accounts, Isaac is kept away from the story. And not only that, it's a deception by omission. She's holding a huge information for a nation. For the entire nation, this woman, the ones who are on the tent, the one who knows how to make a stew, a little pita, and so forth, is holding this very, very important information. But not only that, right? Once you start with a mission where you do not say, for better or for worse in the family, by the way, it's a modeling to the next generation. So what does Yaakov do when he makes a stew for his very eager brother, and his brother sells the birthright to him? Do you think it's an event? Does it matter to anybody? Does it turn the tides of history in some way? Maybe I do not have the same self-control as Yaakov. That's why he's Yaakov. But I probably would have run into the tent and blurred immediately, guess what? I might as well been the first one. He just sold me, guess what? Your favorite one? He just sold the birthright to me. Therefore, Isaac would have been informed. Isaac is again not informed. He doesn't know. He doesn't know that, frankly, is it the deceit? Yes, he's gonna. But nobody's comfortable with the story. Please, Margaret, yes. It's a third time he's deceived. The poor guy, I mean, it's, yeah. And you know what's interesting? I mean, This is why I love Torah. On one hand, you know, you would think, how can you possibly be happy in a state as such? But he's actually one of the happier patriarchs. So to give you an example, only about him, it says that he's playful with Rebecca. I mean, with they're playful. She also didn't tell him probably everything. That's why he's playful. but the fact is, Avimelech looks out the window and finds out they're husband and wife after she's been pretending to be Isaac's sister. And he sees them out of the window that doesn't look like brother and sister unless we are really of Tzuras. Yes.
Can't ignore the family history. So Yitzchak is scarred. He's had a real. So, and Rivka is really special. Eliezer, the whole thing of 1 or 2 parshas ago was how carefully Eliezer had to choose her. So she's carrying the important work here, and Isaac is put aside, and that figures into when she comes to arrange Esau and Jacob and the hair.
No, excellent, absolutely. She is an inheritor of Abrahamic tradition. So she is, you know, the example, more modern example would be Catherine the Great and Peter the Great. Catherine the Great was not biologically related to Peter the Great. She was married to his grandson, but she was his spiritual heir. She had the vision, the strengths, ability to govern, and so forth. And you're absolutely right. Rebecca is the one. And the hint of who the power of this woman is, you know, first of all, the way he looks at her and careful, her physical strength, she goes up and down, the fact, amazing. But when she sees Isaac walking in the field and she's on a camel, right? She's driven. First of all, she decides to go to see this man, to marry him. She never seen him. Sure, give me the camel. That sounds better than where I am at home. Sounds interesting, pretty amazing. But she sees him, she covers herself, right? So, and slides off the camel. So it's a beautiful interpretation. She falls in love, lovely. But the fact is that there is a veil of already on her. Do you know what I mean? She already covers. There are already layers here.
Wake up, what did you say, wake up?
She slides off the camel, she's overwhelmed, and she covers her face with the veil. So what I'm saying is that there is a metaphor of the fact that you don't really see the entire, right, of where she's going and her future tradition. Please. Yeah.
Puzzle. Why did it say here? Sorry. Yeah, on the last paragraph. Give me some of that red stuff to gulp down, for I'm famished, which is why he was named Edom. Yes. Where does that?
Red, because Edom means red. He's red. His coloring is red. So, let's take a look. Right, we're gonna skip just and move to reading 15 on page 9. So. We've looked at the lack of truth by omission, lack of truth by intent, lack of truth by watching the example. So let's take a look at more contemporary example from Marisa Cohen, who says, when is it okay to lie? Would someone volunteer and read the first paragraph, like most parents? Thank you, love.
Like most parents, I am trying to teach my kids that honesty is always the way to go. But truthfully, there are times when I'm such a liar. I lied to my girls about the real reason their uncle was getting divorced. And I cringe just thinking about the day they'll ask, "Mom, did you ever smoke pot?" My answer will remain no, regardless of what my college roommate tells you. I realize there are moms out there who are shaking their heads, eager to point out how hypocritical it is to ask your kids for total honesty and then turn around and lie to them. And yes, experts stress that truthfulness is crucial, to a healthy parent-child relationship. But they also all agree that sometimes less than the whole truth can be a good thing. A parent's job is to protect children and nurture their development, says Robin Altman, MD, a child psychiatrist and medical director of the Children's Home of Reading in Reading in Reading, Pennsylvania. At times, that means telling a small lie or holding back some of the truth when they don't have the capacity to deal with all the facts.
Comments? Okay, this is pretty, right? We're in agreement, okay? Right? Okay, let's keep going. Last September 11, my daughter asked me a question I've been dreading. Mommy, my teacher asked us to remember the people who died on 9/11. What did she mean? Bella May was just 2 months old on that awful day, and I'd never mentioned it even to her. My reply was, some bad guys flew airplanes into a building and some people died. She was silent, and then she said, but it could never happen again, right? With a twinge of liar's remorse, I answered, you're safe. The bad guys in the plane are gone. Did I do the right thing? Filtering the truths is not the same as lying. Michelle Borba, author of Building Moral Intelligence, explains, noting that telling a child too much is unfair. It adds to the fear without helping her handle it. Right? So this is that. Anyone can comment? We have a, yes. Just a second, Yehuda, is anyone else? Yes, please, just a second.
Just a tidbit, when I brought one of my great nieces here and she saw, when I brought one of my great nieces here and she saw the photo of all the hostages, thank you, and she looked at it, she was 5. She looked at it and she said, who are all these people? Why are there pictures up here, right? And what do you say? Yeah, so I said, yeah, well, we're taking, we're worried about them, their well-being. I can't remember what I said. I told her mother, and she said, yeah, I've been struggling about what do I tell them.
Complicated. We have more? There was my, yes, Yehuda? Yeah.
One of the things, the Bible story is part of it, they tend to deal with lies as a one-off. But actually, once you start a lie, you're starting a whole chain of events. And somebody told me this many years ago, if you tell truth, you don't have to remember. If you tell lies, you always have to remember. And that's when things start to fall apart.
That's excellent. So, Yehuda, kol hakavod, excellent comment. So, in evolutionary sense, the question, yes, Nancy, please. Yeah.
I would, on that same line, it goes as far as, it's not only that you have to remember the lie, it's far more complex each time a person later realizes you've lied to them. And then their ability to trust you in telling the truth is different. And what you might decide is something to protect someone might be something that was important enough that they should have known about it. So that you see all of that filter.
Oh, absolutely. So in an evolutionary sense, what we've noticed, or at least scholars that I rely on, is that the brain works so in other words, why would evolution favor lying in that way? Because it's all around nature. In other words, animals camouflage themselves to look like other animals, or tree barks, or flowery plants in order to be pollinated, or like frogs develop a sound of calling a mate in a way that others sound that are more attractive. So they basically steal the potential mate. So why would evolution favor this all over the creation? But one of the things we've learned, what I've learned is that brain works harder at the lie than it is at the truth. is exactly for that, as you described, to be able to remember where you was not clear. You work extremely hard to keep the story you've presented once. And the brain actually develops, this fudge factor develops at a faster rate, if I may say. Children make up stories all the time and take things when you told them not to. And the camera, they put the camera, they tell children, there's chocolates in the room covered with, please don't. It's amazing. They go and then they tell you, no, we didn't take it. It is, and it's before we modeled for them all the things as such. So it's an interesting development of our brain, of a brain, is that how hard it works in order to be able to do this. So in a nature, as I said, it does not mean we don't aspire to be honest, caring people, because the price of a lie is so high. And you might not get it immediately, but our Bar Mitzvah said so well. He says, it takes years, because with Rebecca's omission of a story of what really was going on, followed stealing of the blessing, the fact that she loses her son, both sons in some ways, loses her son who goes for 20 years and she does not see, and she dies, she never sees him. The fact that the father is on a deathbed for 20 years, blind, longing for his son, also does not see him. Jacob suffers tremendously, and so is Rachel and Leah in some very, very painful way of negotiating the conflicts of family. So it's from an omission. That's why I started, right, with Rebecca. And this, and runs through it are the idols of the spiritual tradition that she has to steal for herself, in addition to that. So I just want to, bring it home with a little bit of a humor. We have one more seminar to go, but let's take a look at Dan Ariely. As I said, he's a marvelous storyteller. Honest truth about dishonesty. So how do we receive messages around? 8-year-old Jimmy comes home from school with a note from his teacher and says, Jimmy stole a pencil from the student sitting next to him. Jimmy's father is furious. He goes to great lengths to lecture Jimmy and let him know how upset and disappointed he is. And he grounds the boy for 2 weeks. And just wait until your mother comes home, he tells the boy ominously. Finally, he concludes, anyway, Jimmy, if you needed a pencil, why didn't you just say so? Why didn't you simply ask? You know very well that I can bring you dozens of pencils from work. If we smirk at this joke, it's because we recognize the complexity of human dishonesty that is inherent in all of us. We realize that a boy stealing a pencil from a classmate is definitely grounds for punishment, but we're willing to take many pencils from work without a second thought. Adrian, we just commented on you on your extraordinary Dvar Torah. Kol hakavod. You were terrific. If you're looking for something you seem to misplaced, I would say Rohan would know, because he straightened the sanctuary for us so we could study. I think you're looking for you to lead, or at least I think Mazal Tov. Okay, how is that example on the subject of pencils, right? It's precious, okay? It's a precious example. There was a common understanding in the Soviet system that to steal from the state was not a crime, but to steal from your friend was neighbor was absolutely impossible. So they would say the following about the state and the system, that during the day you would spend hours from your working day standing in food lines, because if you're going to wait till after you leave your work, there will be nothing left in the store. So you have to take time to go to the store. So you've got masses who are not in the office, standing in these long lines to get food. So the common people would wink to each other and say, you know, you're also not at work. And so are you. So they would say, you know, they pretend like they're paying us, and we pretend like we're working. Okay, so, and that was sort of a, you know, common wisdom. And, you know, I came from very, very wonderful, honest people. So what I wanted to bring to us, first of all, a relationship to the text and looking at our Torah from kind of a bird's eye to be able to see connectedness and interconnectedness of these stories, to be able to appreciate its honesty, no doubt, but also how we can do better in our own life by the fact that even that what happens and seeing it in the development of the life in general, and nuances, and looking at it with humor, and the fact that with a certain kindness, maybe we can be kinder to one another to understand how complicated living in generally, to be able to walk through life with that clarity, demanding from us and demanding from others. All right, so I see, Leanne, yes. Oh, no, sorry, Marilyn. Yes, yeah. All right, a second, we have one more comment. Sorry, Marilyn. Okay, so can you repeat that?
My late husband, Frank, was born in Hungary, so he also grew up Soviet. And when he came to Canada, his brother was still in Hungary. And they asked, so what's your brother doing in Canada? So he answered, well, he's a school teacher. And he said, what can you steal from there?
Please, closing up. First of all, how many of you have learned one thing new in this in the seminar? Did I offer anything that was one thing? Okay, so it looks like it was worthwhile to study, right? Do we have one more comment from the? Yes, please. Yes. Yes.
I have a question. So if you go back to page 6, reading 9, about deliberating, hiding the book, concealing the pen, and then at the end, she says, and hoped for help from the Lord.
Yes.
Seems to me she already got some help because she's concealing her pen and continuing to write. Where's God's position? How complicit is God in deceptions and lies?
Excellent comment. How complicit is God in deceptions and lies? Excellent. How complicit God in deceptions and lies? I mean, we have the entire Breshit of God's participating in some way. Yes.
So my favorite story, God says to Sarah, you're going to have a child. And she says, but my husband's so old. God goes to Abraham, what's with your wife? I told her she's going to have a child. And she said, but I'm so old. Which is not what she said. But for Shalom Bayit, God told a lie.
So that's an excellent example that I saved for you for next session because I was dealing with couples. But which is because Talmud would say that even God fudges the truth for Shalom Bayit. If you're going to say everything that's on your mind, right, there's no marriage. It doesn't mean you should lie, but the fact is, you also, a good editor makes happiness. My father would say to us, he says, I'm practicing silence.
A lot of parent groups will tell you the first thing you learn to do dealing with your children, zip it.
Yes. Right. Absolutely, zip it, right? So Torah brings these very, very complex stories for us. There's not, so far that I've presented to you, we dealt with between siblings, between child and a parent, between husband and wife, partners, but not between the parent and a child, right? So also for you to think, in the 10 Commandments, there is honor, love isn't mentioned except for God, right? Like I said, but you honor your parents. There's no commandment in the Torah loving your child. You shall love your God with all your might. Right? think about it, and just we'll explore, but less so. We're going to talk about relationships and Torah and complexity of the truth and so forth in the next session. So I just want to say thank you for braving in to look at things you don't exactly discuss at the dinner party, to say the least, right? Maybe in our Torah, unless it's a good dinner party. So December 6th is a second session. We had them 2 in a row, but I'm in the United States celebrating Thanksgiving with my family, and so on the 6th we will continue. But if this can make us a little bit more tolerant, kinder, and thoughtful towards both our life and those we come across, may our Torah teach us. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much. If you would like to take a look very quickly to the book, and those of you who would like to help me bring Wendy Zieler, this is her extraordinary contribution.
So talking about this, we should meet.
Yes,
and we should
yeah,
plan.
I would love to. Yeah.